Welcome to Spotlight Sioux Falls, where culture meets commerce and the people behind our favorite places get the mic.
We're your hosts, Melissa Goodwin and Steve Schmidt, and we're sitting down with the makers, doers, and dreamers shaping the soul of our city.
From storefronts to side hustles, tattoos to tech startups, we are telling the stories that make Sioux Falls shine.
Because behind every business is a human story, and those stories, they're what make our community feel like home. This is Spotlight Sioux Falls. Welcome to Spotlight Sioux Falls. We are here with a special edition on site at Ark Academy here today with Hollie and Brock Scott, the owners of Ark Academy. So we are excited to learn a little bit more about you and your beautiful facility and the work that you do here. So tell us a little bit about, this is how old now?
This is the end of our 4th week of operation.
4th week. Okay.
Yes.
And you've already got a lot of littles downstairs running around, really fun stuff happening.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, I'd love to know more about your background and what, both of your backgrounds actually, and what brought you to start this incredible new venture.
So I grew up babysitting,
Sure.
worked in a small town, babysat almost every weekend. And then I started in-home daycare with one of my mom's really good friends who became one of my really good friends. And she taught me a lot about how to, have compassion and empathy for children of all ages and really how to just love on them, right? And that's how they learn the most. And so from there, I felt my calling was to help people. So I, tried nursing, I tried all the things, but I always keep coming back. So I ended up with some orthopedic issues and went back to my hometown. And that same gal was running the city daycare. And so she hired me on and I was working with her and she would always encourage me to get back into, you should be a teacher. I always knew you'd be a teacher. And I'm like, no, I need to get in the medical field. Well, after some more praying on that, I went to Southeast for early childhood development. I was the inaugural class at Southeast. And so through that, I did that on the nights and the weekends as I still worked at that in-home or that city-owned daycare. And from there, the director had moved on to a new opportunity. And so they had a director and assistant director open. And so I got that. And I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years or so in that position, taught preschool, got one of my best compliments from my kindergarten teacher who actually took that preschool class on as kindergartners. And so I kind of really started to feel like, okay, this is where I belong.
What was the compliment?
She said that this is one of the smartest classes that she's ever taught. She didn't have to teach them how to put their shoes on, didn't have to teach them how to write their names. And they just knew how to be in the classroom.
Oh,
And
awesome.
so, yeah, it was really
All due to you, of course.
of
Yes.
course. But it was, and they're a very smart group of kids. They're now graduating high school.
Oh, wow.
Which, if that tells you how old I am. But from there, I had continued to have orthopedic issues, and I really thought, there's no way I can get on the floor. I can't crawl. I can't be with the kids, which to me, that's the most important. When you're working in this industry, you don't just stand on the sidelines, right? You're in playing with the kids. And so I moved to Sioux Falls from there to find myself, right? And from there, I got into insurance because that was a way for me to continue to help people. And my mom did that. So it's what I knew, right? She worked at a carrier for 22 years. And so that's what I got into. But in that industry, I was still teaching. I still felt the need to teach and to give and to help people. I went to a carrier and worked there and really got mentored in leadership. Then we go to a church where, we truly believe in prayer. Prayer is very powerful, and that if you take the time to listen to God, He will speak back to you. And I grew up in the church, but through this challenge, it felt a little bit different. Our pastor's like, I'm challenging you to pray in the Spirit for 5 minutes a day, right? And so through that challenge, God really started to speak to me that part of what was missing was really giving back to my community. Growing up in a small town where I knew every parent, every kid that I took care of. I served in church. I served, at the Legion. I worked in a small cafe there as well. So that piece was missing from me when I moved to Sioux Falls. And so I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? And so through all that, that brought me back to kids again.
Okay.
Because being a mom and a dad now, there's just no time for everything. And so how do we continue to give? And there's two ways to give, right? Your money and your time.
Mm-hmm.
And not that we didn't make good money, but when you have kids, they spend it all, right? They're
Right.
pretty good at that.
Yeah.
And then our
Very
time,
good.
we
Especially as they get older, they get even better at it. So just watch
Right.
out.
Can't wait. But then time, when we're working corporate jobs,
Right.
we had no time. We're exhausted at the end of the day. We barely have time to talk to our kids and be with our kids, let alone give to others, right? And so that's really in my heart, is to give to others and to give to the community. And so that was one way God showed me, like, we need daycare. We need good daycare. I need you as a shepherd, Holly, to go into the community and share my love, right? This building had been sitting for a couple years, and I text him as really a joke. Hey, this building, we should take over this building. And he's like, let's do it.
No hesitation.
No
Let's do
hesitation.
it.
He was in.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me about that. That's not the typical response you get
No.
when you text somebody about an open building, at least not me anyway.
Well, we've always had an entrepreneur spirit.
Yeah.
And so I know her passion for children and our passion. That's why it was always start in home or start a daycare. And when finally getting them, because the years before, I was like trying to create names, like we could name this a daycare this name or that name and whatever. And so when she finally was like, this building's open, let's start a daycare, it's like finally she's on board to let's do a business, so that was because I mean the city needs more daycare opportunities, and
Absolutely.
it feels good to try and help fill the void. But yeah, so I was like, no hesitation.
You were all in. So you've got this amazing mural behind us, and you mentioned the name earlier. So tell us, how did the name Ark Academy come about?
Really just brainstorming. With our faith background, we wanted to kind of come with that faith-based name, but also a lot of daycares kind of have that kind of whimsical kid feeling. And so when we were brainstorming, Amazing Redeemed Kids kind of came into play, but being in insurance and whatnot, you use a lot of acronyms. So then ARK became the acronym for that, and then what goes with that, obviously Noah's Ark. So it was like kind of just a really easy thing once we had the brainstorm in there. And then Holly came up with the logo herself. Very talented in her past role and doing marketing stuff. So just kind of bounced ideas off of me as well, but essentially just kind of landed on that logo kind of on her own.
A little divine intervention, maybe.
Yeah.
So you have a background in, you said, nursing and insurance, and you've done some daycare work. What about you? What was your background before you joined this enterprise, before you dove all in?
So growing up, grew up in the Brandon area, played sports, did all that. But throughout when I got out of college, my sport career didn't really pan out.
You didn't become like the center for the Lakers or anything?
No. So I was kind of lost in my 20s on what I was always looking for, a long-term career and career goal path, and was kind of lost, but met Holly a month before I turned 30, and
everything changed.
It did. One of her first questions she asked me was, "What's my faith?" And I said, "I'm a Christian," but never really knew what that meant, never really lived a Christian life. But I believed in Jesus per se, but never was necessarily saved. And so after we initially, because we met on Match.com online, and so after we met, one of our first real dates was I went to church with her, and after because our pastors were on vacation, and so there was 2 services where they weren't there, but the first service where pastor was back, he did what's called an altar call, where you come up and you get saved, and I went up, and got saved, and then after 6 months we got married. So after 3, I proposed, and after 6, we tied the knot and took our faith from there. But either way,
That's a wild first date, by the way. I just
it
just
is.
saying.
It is. So yeah, it's not
You get saved on your first date.
not typical. Not typical. So either way, so not I was still doing a few different things, and Holly was already in the insurance industry, and I was struggling to still find my foothold in what I wanted to do with my life. And she, for a couple of years, like, well, why don't you get licensed? And I was kind of, well, finally I had enough and took the plunge, got licensed, started working in an office, and either way, moved around a few different places, but now I found a good home where I'm at. But I'm doing it's kind of health insurance, whatnot. But along with that, part of the journey, we struggled to have children, but wanted to always stay natural. It was either, if we couldn't conceive, we were gonna adopt or foster. I was starting to get older, but it happened. So we didn't have our first child until I was 35. So it kind of older dad later in life. And what was kind of cool is on our 5th anniversary, we went in to have her, and then didn't have her until the next day. So we kind of share our anniversary with our daughter. But me being a big kid at heart and still loving, Ninja Turtles and stuff from the 90s, 80s and 90s that I grew up with. And we have turtles around the house and just all that type of stuff. It just kind of,
Okay. I mean,
Ninja Turtles, Ninja Turtle stuff.
I've not yet met a real Ninja Turtle. Lynn's young.
But we collect turtle figurines. We go on vacation and we'll find a little turtle to come home and put on our shelf to commemorate our trip or whatnot. But so I'm in that insurance world and enjoy that. But like I said, I've always had that kind of that want to start a business and that entrepreneurial spirit. And with just with her background, and like I said, it was just kind of a natural thing. And I feel like being able to do this helps me be able to be a big kid.
That's awesome.
And try and help mentor little ones and whatnot. So
you've mentioned a couple of things that were interesting as we were doing the tour here. So you've mentioned that, you've had a little bit of you've had a background that maybe lent you to consider, foster children, other things that maybe others haven't. So would you be willing to tell us a little bit about that? Why is that important to you, and anything about your background that you think would be helpful for others to know or that they might connect with?
Yeah. So when we were building this business plan, it was always part of the plan to leave spots open for the foster system because there's such a need, especially for immediate care, right? A lot of centers are full and you can get on a wait list, but when it comes to taking a foster child on, you need immediate care the next day. At least for us, when we were struggling with fertility early on in our relationship, we didn't have the funds to go out and adopt a child. So we had considered really adoption through the foster system, right? Those children need love just as any other child. But our biggest barrier was we both had a PTO cap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if we got called at 10 p.m. at night, where would we take them? We don't have a lot of family support around here. Our parents were still working. We don't, those types of barriers. And so working through some of that really led us to leave those spots open. We also, not that I would say neither one of us would necessarily say our backgrounds and our childhood were bad, but there were a lot of things that made us who we are today.
Sure.
Right. So a lot of
there's some neglect, some trauma, some neglect.
Yeah. And so like, trauma that's a very broad definition, right? But we have some of that. And so we've had to work through a lot of that together. The baggage that you bring into a relationship, that was a lot of ours, right? We grew up the same, but very different.
Mm-hmm.
And so working through that, we've gained quite a few skills on how to handle some of those situations and help our children avoid it. And so that was one of our missions here as well, because I feel like in this industry, a lot of teachers the incidences that you hear that are negative out there in the news about childcare providers, right?
Mm-hmm.
It comes from the lack of education
Yeah.
and being overworked, right? And not having that support. And so how, when the bank asks, how are you going to be different when we're trying to get a loan to help us start up, right? How are you going to do that differently? I really turned to God and, okay, God, give me some answers on this. And so having that additional training on trauma, on how to handle that, not only to help support the child, but how do you support yourself as an adult so that when you go home at night, you can not necessarily, we never leave it at work, right?
Right.
They always tell you to leave it at work. You never do, especially when you truly care about what you do. But how do you leave the trauma piece there and just take the empathy and compassion so that you can process and work through that? And so having some of those skills of our own, working through that every day still, but then offering that extra training for staff so that they can also get through some of that, but still supporting and loving the kids so that when they hear, oh, we have a foster child coming and it's not, oh no, this is going to be a tough one. We want to be like, great, how can I help?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We want that kind of attitude and culture here so that those foster kids feel at home.
Yeah.
Right? It's not their fault that they're being pulled out of that trauma. They had nothing to do with that, right? Even though a lot of times the kids will get blamed by the parents, but that's not here or there. I just want our staff to have that capacity to be able to help and support those children, but also themselves.
So you've got a lot of empathy for all kinds of kids.
Yeah.
And I imagine it is very hard as an empathetic person, someone who really cares very deeply about your work, to not take some of that home or be overwhelmed by that. One of the things that they talk a lot about in schools and in daycares is the ratio of care providers to kids. So can you speak to that a little bit about how do you handle that, or what's your outlook on that here at Ark Academy?
Yeah, so we plan to keep our ratio at the lowest that the state requires, so 1 to 5 for all ages.
Okay.
So that's another way, excuse me, to help with that burnout in staff, right? If we keep the ratios low throughout their entire time at our center, it will help the teachers not feel overwhelmed, right? So if you go from a room where it's 1 to 5 for infants, but then you go to another room where it's 1 to 10 or 12 for 3 and up, well, that's where a lot of their energy starts to come out. We really need to be paying attention and watching them. And so we plan to have the same rate for all ages because our ratios will be the same the entire time they're here. We also will be pairing teachers and children together. And so if a baby starts here, the teacher that they start with will actually grow with them.
Oh, that's
So not
awesome.
only
Yeah.
are they, the ratio is lower, but they also get to grow with these kids and they get to watch their development because that will help with the overstimulation, right? With behaviors. The kids will be more comfortable here. And they'll be able to get some individualized learning as well from us, right? Because we know every child develops at their own speed.
Right.
You could have a set of twins and one will walk now and one will walk in 3 months. Or one will start to talk, one will start to talk in 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is, right? They develop very differently. And so for us to be able to pair the adult, the staff member with those babies and have them grow, they can kind of really watch that development.
Yeah.
It also helps the staff develop too.
They invest in each other, and then the
Right.
parents see the love that the teacher is growing for the child or child for the teacher, and because parents are really concerned about having that love and seeing that support. And so then there's even more of a bond too between the teacher and parent, that you're not going through a new teacher every time your child has a new room. Now you're meeting a new teacher and getting to re-know someone. And so you're essentially everybody, the child, the teacher, the parent, is all growing together through their journey and their walk through Ark Academy. So
That's great. And one of the things as a parent, so we have 4 kids, and we are very lucky to have some help with our family. It's such a gift to be able to drop, and we have mostly working moms here in Sioux Falls, right? Working parents, I shouldn't say just working moms and dads, or whatever your family looks like. But a lot of 2-parent families that are working.
yes.
Yep.
And so many of us have to drop our kids off somewhere, and to not have to just constantly be worried about, I hope they're okay. I hope someone's paying attention to them. I hope that they're loved. I hope they feel like I didn't just like abandon them for the day, you
Right.
know, 5 days a week. That's such a gift to be able to have somewhere that you feel comfortable leaving your child. I would imagine that you take that pretty seriously
do.
here. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about some of the families that you've interacted with here, what you've heard, things that they've said. You mentioned that there was one child that really wanted to stay with you. So that's a
Yes.
good test. To me, that's the ultimate test,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, we have one little guy who he started at daycare and had an experience where, you know, every time mom dropped off, he'd cry. There were a lot of days where he's going to be one, and there's not a week since, except for when he's been here, that he went to daycare his entire time, because
Okay.
every time she'd go in, he'd cry and she couldn't leave him. And so she'd just take the day off or take him to work. And so now he comes in, and you can see him when they get out of the car. As soon as he knows where he is jumping for joy. And then last night actually was probably the second time. I'm looking at Jordan over there, where he was like, I don't want to go to my mom. I want to stay with you, Hollie. And I actually was walking out of the door at the same time, and I heard him cry the entire time. And she's like, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. I promise. And so it melts my heart. You know, we don't ever want a parent to feel like, you know, we're taking their place.
Sure.
But as a mom myself, I appreciated that.
I would take that all day long,
Right?
right?
You
Just
know,
because you know that they're
yeah,
good. They're
they love where
happy.
they are. They're getting taken care of, right? They're not neglected. And so we really try to individualize that care. And we've done, you know, we're slowly growing, which has really allowed us to understand and get to know every kid and every family. I am a little bit more of a crunchy mom. And so the preferences that I had were very different than maybe a daycare standard.
Sure.
And so, you know, we use an app to communicate, and there's an area where they can put their preferences. So keeping those ratios low, keeping those relationships, I truly believe is going to make us a little bit different, because if I have a preference that I want to do baby-led weaning versus purees, or purees versus baby-led weaning, just for them to eat, that's a big deal, right? And so we're going to meet them where they want to be met and keep our ratios there so that they can work through that.
So you're a crunchy mom. Do you accept scrunchy moms, like science and crunchy? Like
Yeah.
what's the range there when you think?
So I would say, now that I'm a mom of two, I'm more scrunchy.
Yeah.
A little bit in between silky and crunchy. We still eat French fries, but
Yeah.
you know, when I walked into the building, there were multiple air fresheners.
Oh, sure.
Well, when I got pregnant with my first, with Berkeley, I cut out a lot of scents, a lot of those chemicals, right? After doing tons of research. And so when I walked in here, I was like, whoa, not that it stunk, but it was chemicals.
Overpowering them. Yeah.
So, you know, we had invested in air purifiers, medical grade air purifiers. And so I feel like it's so much better. But yeah, we'll accept everybody, right? Like, no, we'll meet you where
French
you wanna
fries
be
and
met.
all.
French fries and all. I mean, we still eat French fries in our house. Now that I'm a mom of two, it's a lot less steamed vegetables now than it was
Yeah.
with Berkeley. But
My first one, I think it was all wood toys, and you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and then by the second child, it was like pink plastic Barbie explosion, and
Yeah.
it was whatever.
whatever.
Good intentions, but yeah. So I appreciate that you work
Everybody.
with wherever somebody is at. What is maybe one other thing before we chat with Steve here? What's one other thing that you guys do differently, or that you pride yourselves that you do differently here?
So, myself and my assistant director, Jordan, we're never considered in ratio. Again, to help baby rooms and
What does that mean in ratio?
So we're never assigned to kids, right?
Okay.
So we're never going to be on the schedule. Like, we're going to be the caregiver for the day. That allows us to walk into a room. So like this week, it's a full moon, and in daycares, when full moons happen, it gets a little crazy. So, you know, we've had some teething boys, and they're just crabby. And so we've been able to walk into those rooms and take those babies and give them some extra love. We've had a couple toddlers that have had a rough week because of the holiday and getting back into the flow. And so we've been able to get and be a part of helping them redirect their behaviors, right? So we're not in ratio day to day, but we can be if we have to be, right? We can step in and help so that the teachers don't get overwhelmed, the kids don't get overwhelmed, and we can help then teach the teachers how we prefer they do things, right? So redirection versus a timeout kind of a thing. And so I feel like that sets us apart. We've heard from some of our teachers that we're like, we've never had this much support before. And now I know we're smaller right now and we will grow, but it is on my heart, Brock's heart, and Jordan's heart to really make sure that we continue to do that, right? We can be there and know every child and help through all those tough times because we all have bad days. And I don't ever want a staff member to feel like they can't be supported when they need it, right? 5 kids is still a lot of kids, right, to yourself. But if you have some support where you can just call, send us a message through our app and say, hey, can you come help make a bottle? Can you come help change a diaper? Or, you know, I won't say his name, but your favorite, not my favorite. I'm his favorite. Your little man needs you, right? He saw you through the window. He needs you. I can step in and grab him. Calm him down, get him to play, kind of a thing. So
I would say it's not a new concept, but we're kind of going along with that Montessori style of daycare and learning. We want to teach kids life skills, and we're not going to do everything for them. So when it comes to like baby-led weaning, but they clean up their own plate, you know, tie their own shoes, try and teach them some of that stuff.
Can I bring my teenagers here?
Yeah.
I'd like to maybe... They could clean up their plates and maybe tie their shoes.
So not necessarily doing everything for the child, but trying to teach them some of that stuff early and get that into them. We've got some fun ideas that we would like to implement. We've got such a big play area. We're thinking about like a community garden type thing, you know, garden and get the kids out and teach them gardening and even maybe getting in some like aquarium animals, things like that they might not see at home, but that would be really fun for them to. I've
maybe some real Ninja Turtles.
There we go, real Ninja Turtles. But I've joked about having a little petting zoo, you know, like have some, you know, rabbits, dogs, you know, cats, whatever. But yeah, we would like to, like I said, we plan to try and like do a garden and get the kids out and doing stuff and almost kind of a learning style you see the Japanese culture do with their young kids. They don't sit in a classroom for the first few years and whatever. They're teaching them life skills and doing things right away. So that's kind of what the model we would love that we're trying to implement. So.
Yeah, so just to piggyback on that, so once they hit the age of 2 in our center, they check in and check out of a home base is what we're calling them, but they don't stay there all day, right? So if you think about being at home just with one child in the same room for 8 to 10 hours a day, would you go crazy? I would go crazy. Right? Even a lot of
every
times,
single day, the same thing over and over again.
Same toys, same entertainment, same scenery. And so when God gave me the vision for this daycare, it wasn't just about being comfortable, but just feeling truly like you're at home. That's a different level of comfort, right? So you're comfortable sitting here, but if you could feel at home where you can kick your shoes off, relax, that's really what we're trying to build here. And so we have stations set up like a living room where they have free play. We have a library where they can sit and do a little bit more structured activities, but still have some of that free spirit. We have a kitchen to teach them how to, you know, my kids love to play in their play kitchen and they serve us meals all the time. They're plastic, but they love to cook us meals.
They love to ask us what our order is.
Yeah, they love to play restaurant. We have art and sensory station as well to help with some of those sensory overloads that we have nowadays. And like Brock mentioned, to teach them real life skills. If they spill, we don't clean it up for them. Now we teach them, you know, what do I ask for now? A paper towel, okay, and they clean up. Doesn't mean we don't go behind them and clean it properly so it's, you know, sanitary. But we'll also, you know, my kids love to do laundry. to
Can you,
teach.
I need your kids to come
Yeah.
to my house. I've got a
Yeah.
lot of that too.
We love to put it in and switch it, but not
We're going to
put
be
it
friends.
away.
Yeah.
The folding is we got to teach them the folding part.
Is getting. So like we'll have a laundry helper because we'll
Okay.
wash their mats and their dirty clothes here, their mat blankets here, right? And
Yeah.
so they'll take them, put them in, and push the button. And so just things like that will make us a little bit different.
Well, I love that you've got a lot of natural toys. You've got plastic. You got everything. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like whatever your style is, you can kind of feel comfortable. Both my parents were teachers, and I've seen a lot of schools, everything from JDCs to early childhood, my whole life.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up around. And I will say this is one of the quietest places with kids I've ever been in. So
Well, they're outside right now.
but everybody seems like they kind of know what they're doing, and they're all happy, and I don't hear any screaming or yelling, and I've been in a lot of places where I've heard that plenty, sometimes my own house. So.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Fair enough. But yeah, it's a lot of beautiful space here you've got in different areas. So really fun to see.
So there's a verse over there, Proverbs 22:6. It's like at the top of your mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk me through that? Because it sounds like that was a pivotal moment. You just didn't pluck it out of a book and throw it on a marketing piece. It means a lot to you guys, right?
You want me to start?
Sure.
So when we were coming up with the name, right? With every business, you really should have a mission statement and some core values. And so that was one of the things that I kind of tasked Brock to do, right?
Yeah.
Like I would like you to kind of dig in and find where we should go. Like what is God telling you with this?
The beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, we have these little business meetings where we have to schedule time because, we have kids.
Yeah.
And he sat down, he's like, okay, I think I came up with an idea for our mission statement. I said, okay, what is it? And he goes, it's this Bible verse. And I'm like, I didn't even think about using that, right? I should have, but my marketing is all you make this up and you put your values in it. Yes. And so I said, okay. He goes, I have 3 or 4 of them. I said, okay. And so that was the first one he read. And I was almost in tears because I'm like, that's exactly what we want to do, right? Train up a child and they will not be lost.
No.
Or they will not depart, depending on what version you're reading, right? Because as parents, that's what we want. We never want our children to stray from our values.
Yeah.
But most of all, we don't ever want them to stray from what God has for them.
Yeah.
So the sooner you start in on it with a child and just with any behavior, the more it's going to grow and become a lifelong habit, value, whatnot. So that I just feel like that verse just hit with what we were looking for. So.
I don't even know what the other 3 or 4 then.
I don't remember either.
Because we stopped. Like that was it.
Yeah.
It's hard to trust, I think, for those of us who believe or those of us who maybe don't. Like it's hard to trust in about anything these days, right? And in terms of like worldly things, it's pretty hard to look around and say like, I trust that person. I trust that article. For a lot of people, even myself to a degree, as I'm actively seeking out with Melissa, we're in a church now, but like to feel a connection is usually the part, and maybe as a kid you can't, maybe as a 2-year-old, but when you, like you said, you're around it. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that, because that for a lot of people would say, that's really important to me, to have that in my kid's life, because it provides what? I mean, I kind of know, but I don't want to fill in the blanks. What does it provide in your terms for that?
I would say for me, a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Our especially Berkeley going to be 5. She's been in Sunday school since she was a baby. Not Sunday school, but in the children's program at our church. Same with Braxton. But now we have her in the Sioux Falls Christian Preschool.
Cool.
and want them to continue through the rest of their school there. And that's not necessarily, I mean, it's a private school. It's not necessarily viable for all families, but for ours that fits. But it warms my heart when she comes home singing worship songs and knowing, and as a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old turning 5, knowing these songs and knowing the stories from the Bible. I even told Holly last year when she started that even though we've been faithful and in 10 years we've maybe missed, literally, and this ain't a braggadocious thing, but maybe 20 services in 10 years. It's usually when we're on vacation or something. But even though we're in our faith, having her come, almost we can relearn and get that base of a child, because she can teach us some of this stuff that we don't see and relearn that we didn't get when we were a child. And so, like I said, I think it's a learning opportunity that our kids are going to start teaching us some things, about the Bible. So it's really just, like I said, it's kind of a great fulfillment. And it feels good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I would just add that, we think that kids can't teach us or they don't know, right? But I would say, their childlike faith is a true thing. Like, children believe more than most of us adults can ever.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's the world that starts pulling it out of them.
Right. And so when we talk about being faith-based, right, that doesn't mean that we just sit and read the Bible to them all day.
Right.
It's really, we want to just show an example of how Jesus lived.
That's more important.
Right.
Right.
And so, just an example within our household, Brock was upset. Sorry, bud, but he was upset one night and he was crying. And my daughter walked up and said, "What's wrong, Daddy?" And he said, "I'm just sad." And she just wanted to hug him and be there for him. And then she wanted to write a permission slip so that the next day he could come and take a nap with her and be at daycare. So just having that empathy and that kindness, right? And so even the short 4 weeks we've been here, we pray before every meal. And they're now like, "Oh, I want to lead the prayer. I want to lead the prayer." And they all know our little prayer that we sing together before every meal. And, there are some families here that I know aren't active believers, and that's fine.
Right.
Like, in fact, I'm not here to just have a house full of believers.
Yeah.
Just like church is a hospital, right?
Yeah.
So, just to see those little kids get some of that in their life, that we don't just yell and hit.
Right.
That's not what Jesus did. We use our words and we forgive and we just are compassionate with each other. And just to see some of those small behaviors already starting to morph and change to be more like Jesus has been amazing to watch.
Well, if you could change Brock, you can change anybody's life. And I think it sounds like, Brock, you sound like a lot of people in the world, right? Where it's kind of like, I mean, I don't mean to make you a number, but a lot of people are lost and maybe didn't go specifically what you have. And it sounds like you found a way in your heart to get through that. And although the path was Holly, like that's not the destination, right? It opens up your whole world. And here you are. I bet you never thought you'd be right here doing this interview right now.
No.
It's about owning a daycare that just opened. That's faith-based.
That's right. I'll just add, the partner you choose is one of the biggest decisions you're ever going to make. How many people end in divorce nowadays? But when you can find someone and invest in them, and they invest in you and make you a better person, and you guys are going to grow together and develop, that's a huge thing. And that's exactly what I found in her. And seeing that in day one, we were talking. The first night we met, I was drinking, and she never drank in her life, dang near. And we met at a bar, and I'm drinking, and she's not judging me, but we were talking, and essentially, she's from day one said she likes to love on people and be a mama bear and whatnot, and I connected with that and right away, and just like I said, without meeting her, my life would be in a different path for sure.
Yeah.
So.
As we conclude, there's some really important things. Number one, where can people find you if they want to contact you for a tour or more information or find out about enrollment. And then we'll get to the enrollment piece in a second.
Yeah. So we have a website, Ark Academy, SiouxFalls.com. From that website, you can register. You can book a tour with us right there. And you can find our phone number or email us, all from our website. Again, that's Ark Academy, SiouxFalls.com. Otherwise, you can just give us a call, 605-838-8730. You know, you can always stop by if you want to. We're at 3309 East 26th Street. But we prefer if you book a tour so that we're not feeding babies like when you walked in with us today.
Thanks, everybody. This is Steve from Spotlight Sioux Falls. Again, this is Brock and Hollie Scott with Ark Academy. Check them out. You heard the information. We're going to put it in all of the show notes below. So go ahead and subscribe to the show. And if you're interested in more information, click on the link to contact Ark Academy. Brock and Hollie Scott, thank you so much.
Thank
you. Appreciate it.
This episode of Spotlight Sioux Falls is sponsored by Magnetic. We help businesses grow through content that stands out and software that scales your conversations. Not sure how to build your pipeline? You can find us at magnetic.services. Magnetic.services. Your pipeline will thank you.
Thanks for listening to Spotlight Sioux Falls.
These are the stories and the businesses that shape our city. If you heard something today that made you smile, made you think, or maybe reminded you of someone you know in your neighborhood, please share it.
That's how we support local. That's how we grow. And if you know a business owner we should feature, or you want to tell your story, reach out.
Until next time, we're Steve and Melissa, and this is Spotlight Sioux Falls, where local stories get the stage they deserve.